Having been building for the past year, do you have any, perhaps, I know it's very cliche, but any maybe words for other builders that are thinking of building within the proof of play ecosystem, or are maybe just kind of curious to know what exactly it is that it takes?
I would say one, do it. Two, contact the team because they're really helpful. Three, contact the other devs because we love talking to other nerds. And four, use AI. Use it, use it, use it. Accelerate yourself. Speed up the mundane stuff.
Hey, welcome everyone. Just some housekeeping disclaimers before we get into anything else. While I am part of the Proof of Play and Pirate Nation team, I am here solely on my individual capacity. So all of the questions and opinions that I table here are my own unless otherwise stated. I myself do play Pirate Nation on a regular basis like all other pirates. For this Builders Parley episode, we have nJoi from the Pirate Nation Tavern, which provides gauntlet stats, combat quest encounter enemies, has a very, very useful deck builder, and details and account skills amongst a myriad of other things. In essence, it's a suitcase of information that any formidable pirate has used at some point or another. With that, welcome officially to the podcast, nJoi. How are you?
Thanks so much, Miss Purple. I am great. I'm really happy to be here. It's been an awesome time being a pirate for about this past year.
Yeah. And actually, you've been around for a year as a pirate officially. So can you just let us know how exactly did you come across Pirate Nation and then obviously, of course, Proof of Play and inadvertently end up deciding to build the Taverns world?
Yeah, for sure. I come from a Ethereum fan background. I've been following Ethereum since 2016 or so, and I've done some work in this space. I've been a blockchain developer a couple of places, and I was actually working at MoonPay, and I was looking at what was actually happening in NFTs because I was working in their NFT stack. I saw Web3 gaming growing, and I was looking out at what card games were out there. And I found this little Pirate Nation demo that was sent to me actually in a LinkedIn message. Somebody was like, hey, there's a really cool company called Proof of Play that has a really cool game. You should check out this demo. Basically, an hour after playing the demo, I bought my first pirate. And from there, the rest is history.
Yeah, I think that's actually probably the best story that I've heard, because if it took you an hour, was it the curiosity behind what it took to build that game, or was it the game itself that essentially drew you into the game further? I mean, for it to convince you to buy a pirate, what was the little thing that cinched the deal for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was actually a combination of the gameplay. I loved the card game that it threw me into. And then the other part was the smart contracts. I had to go look under the hood, and I take a look at the smart contracts, and there's so many, and they're all so awesome and interconnected and doing so much incredible logic behind the scenes. And it was a seamless gameplay client. And I was just like, this is really the technology that Web3 gaming is going to be using. And so I was like, I need to have a pirate.
I think it's crazy because a lot of people don't realize how many contracts there are. And now that there's both Apex and Boss, they both have over 400 contracts on each chain. But all of them work in tandem at all times, 24/7. And it sounds small, but even a single contract is a lot of work and a lot of mental gymnastics. But to have that many and have them work in tandem simultaneously and have everything be on chain, I think that's pretty crazy in like a very cool, very big brain kind of way. So I guess for you then, what would you say is your central pillar for Taverns? You know, what is the end goal here? You created it eventually after having played the game. What was the reason that you felt you needed to create something like that? And what is the intention eventually for it to become?
Sure, yeah. So as I kept leaning into some of the community around the game, I met a whole bunch of holders. I ended up buying a bunch more pirates over time while I was kind of spinning up the early code base for the tavern. That code base was actually inspired by kind of some of the stuff you see in like World of Warcraft raiding communities and stuff, where there's like stats on all the bosses and what you're bringing to the fights, what spec your characters are in, that sort of stuff. I saw the future of where the team was going to be able to take this card game with pirates and ships and attachments and different builds and affinities and expertise. And I was like, I think that's where people will need to lean in to be able to thrive in this game. And then on top of that, I really wanted to add some competition. So I did mention I'm a blockchain developer. The majority of the Tavern right now is actually front end. It's very informational. You mentioned it's a lot of helpful information about what fights are out there, and who's killing what bosses with what ship or pirate, etc. But the actual long game for the Tavern is to do actual on-chain stuff as well. We will do on-chain competitions. We'll do rewards and events and things like that all end up on chain. Right now, it's mostly just a view client for the sake of safe integration, to be honest.
So basically, the thing that's standing between you and getting to that stage of having this on-chain activity is maybe perhaps to build a reputation before you kind of encourage people to connect wallets for their safety, or is there another reason deeper than that?
That's definitely one of the key reasons. Another one is actually also interoperating with the stack, like very specifically. There's a lot of tooling that the proof of play team is working on for builders that will improve our ability to interact with the game and interact with the contracts and the accounts that people are using. So what I'm trying to do is establish myself as a useful tool builder, a trustworthy party, and then leverage kind of like the best in class technology that they're able to put out to actually, connect all those parts without having to kind of go rogue and come up with my own frameworks for these things.
Yeah, yeah. Can you walk us through? I mean, of course, like you said, it's mostly front end and mostly informational, but are there specific fundamentals that you focused on when building Taverns without obviously giving away your secret sauce? But how do these various components kind of work together? All this information that you kind of have on there, because I know a lot of people are curious to know how can we trust that Taverns actually has legitimate information. So can you just walk us through that for a bit?
Yeah, for sure. So what the Tavern's really doing right now is indexing players' account data, and checking for when they've completed boss kills. So every single transaction provides a ton of information about what happened, including some log data. I take a bunch of log data across your player history and kind of roll that up into your kill history, and then convert that into, the actual metered runs of how long it took for you to go from you finished this boss at this point in time, because that gets stamped on chain. Right. So I'm actually just reading public data from the chain, and displaying it to you in a cleaner fashion. The first few months of this project was actually just getting that backend service set up. It's two core services are at play here, which is the front end, which for all the nerds out there just uses standard Vercel stuff, and it's a Next.js deployment. And in the backend, there's a node server that's just constantly doing a variety of things. It onboards new users in a specific pattern. It traces transaction logs for certain things. It searches for event logs in certain ways, and it requests information direct from the contract at times.
What would make all of that collation of information easier for you without breaking too much, without requiring the team to do too much? Are there specific things that maybe they just need tweaks to make it easier for you to collate that information and bring it together?
Yeah, there are a couple of ways that things could be improved in terms of how some of the data points connect. And those are actually things that are in development from what I understand, just in terms of the system itself evolving to be better to interact with and read from. So there will be things that just kind of provide more breadcrumbs to where the right information is. Sometimes it can be a little difficult to go from like, hey, I found this piece of information. How does that relate to the other stuff, right? That ID is a sub-reference of another ID, and then I have to look up what that is, and blah, blah, blah. So there's a bunch of things that require multi-step processes, and some of those will end up being more streamlined in the future. And my understanding too is that as a service provider, Proof of Play is really looking to make all of the games that build using their engine able to thrive and able to have these builders build on top of them really easily. So, the long-term perspective is that Proof of Play will probably end up with an indexer of their own that we'll be able to kind of utilize as a service, rather than me having to run my own indexing backend system that's constantly churning data references. They'll all kind of already exist in the Proof of Play side of things, and they'll be able to hand that off a lot easier through standard APIs.
With your skill set and your history, I imagine you could have done a bunch of other things outside of this. I imagine you could have also probably tried to build on a different game, but you decided to use the Proof of Play technology and build on Pirate Nation. Is there a reason, now that you've seen other games? I mean, of course, that one was probably your first foray to just kind of discovering and seeing how things go, and that tech behind it and the stack behind it was fascinating, but I'm sure you've seen others, but you've still kind of sticking around building on Pirate Nation. Is there a reason for that? And are there plans to maybe incorporate other games in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll answer the second part first. Of course, I absolutely want to cover other games. I see the reason that the brand is actually called Taverns instead of The Tavern is because there will be multiple taverns. I'll try to support various IP over time, just with these kind of user tools, game tools, stats, etc. For the games that can have that. And a part of having that is being a fully on-chain game where I decided to really lean in and be all in here with Pirate Nation versus trying to go cover a variety of the 150 other active Web3 games out there right now is actually kind of the same thing I said earlier, but has to do with the contracts. Really quickly, there's a whole bunch of conversation about MGAS right now, like mega gas.
Yes.
The TLDR for that on my end was I saw that a long time ago. I saw that these contracts are all interacting simultaneously, like one contract call results in a dozen other things happening. That's what creates a rich transaction, like a transaction that does a lot of different things. There's a ton of compute to actually get you to like complete a quest in game or whatever the action may be, right? I could tell that there was actual complexity and actual compute happening inside these contracts. Whereas if you go look at a lot of other games out there, a lot of just Web3 technology in general, this isn't even just a gaming problem. This is an everything Web3 problem where most stuff is a very light touch. It's basically like a shim. It's just like a wrapper around an existing thing. And it's not actually complex. It's just like, well, we put this thing that used to be over here onto this chain. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't actually do anything new. You just like put a different color paint on it or whatever versus like there was actual new, intelligent, rich transactions coming out of the proof of play system. That blew my mind compared to what I was seeing from other contract stacks. So I knew that there was like really meaningful blockchain work happening here, not just gaming and token stuff. Right?
So are there opportunities for other, say, builders or players to use what you've done with Taverns to perhaps incorporate maybe say some of the stats that you've got going, maybe because they have no idea how to do it themselves, they can just pull from you? Or are you just mainly focused on just curating and building out Taverns to be what you want it to be first before you can allow people to essentially use it in whatever things that they build? Because I imagine for proof of play, the idea is to just have these iterations of builders that are creating on top of one another, for one to maybe create a baseline for others to then evolve from that and build something else and then extrapolate and then see what's possible. But are you open to that, or do you feel like maybe you're not quite ready?
Yeah, I'm very open to it. I'm very open to working with other builders. There's a handful in the community that I already work with fairly often. We share code excerpts to each other, queries, things, how we talk about how we're querying information all the time. But then on top of that, creating an API that someone could like fetch things from my system, totally also reasonable. But I also think that there will be opportunity for collaboration in the code bases too. Right now, things are pretty private. The code base is all effectively all private repositories right now. But me and a handful of the other builders too, we're very pro open source technology people. So especially as I go to do any smart contract logic, those things will all be developed in public for sure. And then from there, I think is when we'll start to also maybe open up some of the code base to other peers. There is some security concerns around those things though, so you do have to navigate that kind of carefully.
I do think that that's unfortunately one of our biggest downfalls within the space is security is something that we value, but it's also something that can be taken advantage of so easily. So maybe we need to focus a lot more on figuring out how to kind of close those gaps up to make it easier for people to iterate and build together. Because that is obviously, I think that's where the creativity juices are, when you have a group of people who are able to ideate together versus just kind of doing it in silos. How has the social aspect of all of this, not just with builders, but also with the community? Because as players, and I consider myself from a perspective of a player, as players, we use Taverns regularly, almost every single day for some people, especially the ones that are super competitive. Also, even for, from a support angle, it's also very useful. But how has that social aspect kind of maybe changed, if at all, of course, your view of the gaming ecosystem today, and maybe even adjusted how you view taverns and what it is that it stands for and what it could become?
Yeah, it's really been awesome to see the response to it. Actually, I remember the first like month or two that we actually turned on some analytics around usage, and it was around when we released the first version of the deck builder. And we were like, man, people are constantly coming back to the site to check stuff, and we were like, they just love being able to see this information clearly and refer to how well they're doing in combat and stuff. So it definitely has changed the roadmap in terms of what we think players value. You know, one of our peers actually had built a deck builder for a different game and no one used it. And so he actually was like, maybe we don't even bother. And then we were like, nah, let's just put it together real quick. Let's just make a hacky one and see what happens. And then literally it was like the most used thing by far for the first like month on the website. And so, yeah, we've definitely adjusted around that. And we always listen to what people are talking about. You know, there was a moment where we almost spent a tremendous amount of effort trying to make a really cool like exploration map feature. And then someone else in the community did it with a Google sheet. And we were like, that's better than what we would have like that. Like it would have taken us so much time to build this custom thing. And this Google sheet works perfectly. Let's not do that and just let that social tool solve that problem.
I think the simplicity of that Google Sheet is probably also what works for a lot of people because it's something you recognize, it's something that's easy for others to contribute to. But it also says a lot to what I think the Pirate Nation community is looking for. They just want things that work. I mean, if it looks pretty, even better. But if it works, that's it. You can kind of evolve and iterate from there and just give them something that is useful and can make just kind of exploring, make that easier, make your experience overall of the game easier as well. Even we use it. So I think it says a lot when even us as team members actually use the products that our builders are creating. So I'll say kudos to you, but also to everybody else in the community. I don't think any of the kind of the level of retention would be possible without the builders overall. I think a lot of it is made possible through that, symbiotic relationship that exists between Pirate Nation and the builders. What has been your favorite part about building taverns so far? And of course your least favorite part, but the focus is the positives here.
Yeah, my favorite part. My favorite part has been definitely season 3. Building the account skills stuff, so much fun. And it also really, it's rolling the account skills stuff out and then rolling the new componentry into the deck builder was a really, really fun series of work because it was so like they had made a major change to their system, and adhering to that change was logical and clean. I just had to like adjust some entity definitions and look up a couple of new data points, and all the things that I had been doing already, like still applied to these new things. They're just slight variations on them. Like I already knew how to find these types of data. It was just a new data set that I had to parse, putting all that together and seeing that system come together was really fun because it's like, this is what it's like to build with the team, with this fully on-chain game that's constantly going to iterate and add new features and add new items and stuff like that. And that's exciting as both a gamer and as the builder, because I'm in here. Half of my brain is calculating how to build it, and the other half of my brain is calculating how to use it. Because I'm like, I need to come up with a deck for the hardest bosses out there and all that stuff. I need to have a strategy for what I want to craft first. Yeah, it's been really, really fun.
For a person who's either new to the game or even new to using taverns, what is their ideal experience for you? Are you trying to create a very unique experience for them to kind of feel like it's useful? Because I know it can be daunting. I've experienced people who kind of interacting with the deck builder, they have no idea what to look at because there's a lot of information, so it's great to have all this information there, but when there's a lot, it can overwhelm you.
Yeah, actually, new player experience is something we're thinking about a lot right now because we want to be able to help onboard new players into Pirate Nation and soften their landing, right? So, there's a ton of information on the site, but where is it and why does it matter to what I'm doing right now are things that new players probably won't always know. And like you said, you open up the deck builder and it's like, well, there's a ton here. But I would say, the ideal new player logs in, goes straight to the gauntlet page, like today's gauntlet, and sees how fast other people are killing these bosses. They go and try and fight it themselves, and they're like, I am not good at this game, but I could be, right? I think that's the ideal like new player landing moment because it's really that they get a glimpse into the high end of what Pirate Nation is, and that's only going to get deeper and deeper. Both inside of Pirate Nation and inside of the Tavern with different things like tournaments and different competitions we could host down the line.
I would actually say that that is a daily experience, even for non-new players. Because when I get in there and I look at the stats, my brain goes, wait, how did you do that in 20 seconds? There are some people that are beating these gauntlets and I will time myself and watch it and I go, I haven't even gotten to like the fifth round. I've tried to kind of curate my own decks. I'm not going to lie to you. I suck at that. Other times it's generally just, skill issue, and that's a different story for another day. But I think generally everybody appreciates kind of being able to compete with each other. It just kind of motivates you to say, if somebody can do this in under a minute, surely I can. So it builds into not just giving information, but it does something to you as an individual. Other people kind of use it to flex. Yeah. If anybody can beat my score, even better. But yeah, I guess I'm wondering if you're planning to have a bit more competitions using the data and the information that's already on Taverns. Is Taverns looking to host more of those going forward?
For sure, yeah. So we did a really, really awesome tournament. We did a week-long tournament in season 2. Towards the start of it, we gave out like 1 million booty to people for doing normal and hard mode over the course of the week. The top 3 people across over the course of the week, and we want to do more of those. The reason that we actually held off on doing too much competition and stuff was because the season 2 gameplay had started to wane for some people, and we didn't want to like force people to double down on like a high-end ship or something like that while they're really like kind of waiting out some of the growth of the multi-chain and some of the pain points. There were some like when the queue was out and stuff. So we pushed some of that further back on the roadmap, and it's going to come up soon, actually. One thing we rolled out was filtering to the different ships or expertises when you're looking at the like leaderboard of a given day of all the kill history for a given day. So you can see like how fast are the frigates going versus how fast are the sloops going. Well, one thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually do some tournaments that are just for sloops, just for skiffs, just for, whatever. Maybe we'll have like a normal tournament that's like fastest skiffs only. And then you have like a hard mode tournament that's like fastest frigates only, right? So we'll have some more custom tournaments like that. We'll also do some player events, and those are the sorts of things that we want to do a lot of and make that really easy to do on the site. We did hit some scaling concerns actually too. So there was a moment where we were like, oh man, if we onboard too many people with these tournaments into the site, like we'll start like paying for server costs too high before we had optimized some things. So that's in a better place now too.
No, this could be of course, as a non-builder, maybe I don't fully understand the nuances here, but to me, running into scaling issues is low-key a positive because it means you're clearly doing something right. Because if your issue is there's too many people, then dang, you are, very obviously attracting that amount of people to say they want to use your product. And I think that was also the case with, having Apex and Box. It was a shocker, right? To say, wait, okay, so I guess we have to do this now because there's a lot of you, which was both exciting and daunting, right? Because you have to do it as you go along. That's the unfortunate part of building in public, but it's also the fun part. Because as players, we get to see it evolve. And as community members, as team members, you see all of this just kind of iterate real time. And then now we're here and we're at a relatively stable point where we're looking forward to just kind of seeing a whole bunch more iterations to the game. It's growing in terms of density. And I'm curious to know from you, having been here for over a year now, roundabout, what is your unfiltered opinion of Pirate Nation where it is right now? So this is from both a builder perspective, but also as a player. What do you genuinely think is missing? What do you think is that thing that just makes it stand out that much more? Not even from a proof of play stack perspective, but just from the game itself.
So a quick note on a builder side, what it is missing right now is there are actually a few cases where there's some metadata that's not fully referenceable on chain. So for example, there's a flaw in the Taverns, the way that it's calculating your kill times. I actually don't have a perfect start time in every case. I have to use the previous end time or the start of your hard mode unlock transaction. So there's actually some like load times that show up that and like blockchain processing times that can kind of munge some of the data. So there's some stuff there that definitely needs to be finished and just cleaned up. It's really, really minor. It's so like not a big deal that it's not a priority, but we've spoken to the team and it's definitely going to get improved so that the full visibility into what happened in combat, let's say, it will all be there eventually, right? I mean, eventually you'll actually be able to replay the fights through on-chain history, right? You'll be able to basically like see exactly all the actions anyone took. So that's coming, but it's also definitely needed. From a player side, I think it needed crafting. It needed this new crafting that it got. I've been waiting for this. I've been dying for attachments and crafting to get deeper. And what they rolled out is amazing, especially once they iterated on some of the cost and timing. It feels great. I really enjoy crafting right now. And it was what I wanted for sure. Now it's just harder stuff. I need some big stuff. I need some big stuff to fight with my friends. That's what I want.
Okay.
I want something that we can't even kill it. You know, I want it to kill me every time for like the first few times I fight it, you know, like for like the first few weeks, like no one killing this thing. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
I'm sure William can whip something up. He's known for creating some things that are very, very easy to hate. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to kind of seeing that and then seeing how Taverns continues to iterate from there as well. I guess then are there places where people can maybe reach out to you if they're interested to just kind of talk more about Taverns, or maybe they're just interested to read more, find out more? I know there isn't a lot of information outside of Taverns itself to just kind of read what the ethos is. Are you working on things like that?
Yeah, I should improve some of the ability to find more about what the Taverns really stands for sure. We do have a base website, which is just taverns.world, but that is really just a link. It's a small website that links out to the Pirate Tavern if you scroll down the page. And it kind of hints at the fact that, you know, there will be more taverns for other games down the line. You can find me on Twitter. I post from the Tavern account right now. I sometimes post from my personal Twitter, which is nJoi Crypto. I'm very active in Discord. So if you're a pirate or you want to be a pirate, come find me in the Pirate Nation Discord for sure. You'll see me as nJoi, and I'm mostly in the founders chat, but I'm always checking in on main deck, and I'm always checking on the captain's headquarters too.
Having been building for the past year, do you have any, perhaps, I know it's very cliche, but any maybe words for other builders that are thinking of building within the proof of play ecosystem, or are maybe just kind of curious to know what exactly it is that it takes?
I would say 1, do it. 2, contact the team because they're really helpful. 3, contact the other devs because we love talking to other nerds. And 4, use AI. Use it. Accelerate yourself. Speed up the mundane stuff. Like there's so many times where you could spend a whole day just trying to write, I don't know, API code that an AI could probably generate for you in like 5 seconds.
That is very interesting. I appreciate everything you've said here. I appreciate, all the wisdom that you've shared, all the nerd facts. I think it's very fascinating from a player as well who isn't even fully aware of what it takes. I think it's interesting to just kind of hear the intricacy of building something that may seem as simple as Taverns, because it is not simple. I know that if anything, having that much information be accurate takes a lot more than people think it does. So I appreciate you. I know that the Proof of Play team and the Pirate Nation team appreciate you endlessly. So yeah, with that, I hope you have a great day. I'm looking forward to seeing everything else that it is that you build. I will include all the links that you mentioned here in the show notes as well, so people can just find all that information there. So have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Miss Purple.